Starting the live stream, please stand by. Starting the live stream, please stand by. We are now streaming.
Yes, Commissioner Cozart?
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Here.
Commissioner Stidham?
Here.
Commissioner Argo?
Here.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Here.
Chairman Scharf?
Present.
Commissioner Blair?
Here.
Administrator Forst?
Here.
Commissioner Dixon? Present. Commissioner Cash?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner McGowan?
Here.
Marcella Costa, Executive Director, and Diane Sullivan, current Planning Director, are also in the meeting.
Thank you, Megan. Noting the presence of a quorum, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today's meeting is live streamed as usual and will be available in archived video form on our website within a few days. If there's no objection from any commissioner present, the agenda is posted is hereby adopted, or as posted is hereby adopted as the order of business. And let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item 2 is the report of the chair. I'd like to note a few things. First of all, there are a fair number of people here who are not regulars to the National Capital Planning Commission. And to you, I would just say welcome. The NCPC is a body that was founded over 100 years ago, initially as the National Capital Park Commission. The 1952 National Capital Planning Act is sort of our Bible and charter, and we also have statutory authority relating to a number of other crucial statutes, including the Height of Buildings Act, the Commemorative Works Act. It's a very long way of saying that this is an important commission that does very important, serious work, the results of which are visible really everywhere we go in this region. When you look at the planning of Washington, D.C., when you look at the projects that really define this city, many, if not all of them, that have occurred in the last century, this commission has been involved in. So I would say welcome. We have a busy agenda today. It's not our busiest meeting, but it's not our quietest either. I would also say that there is an item on the agenda today, the ballroom, about which we've heard, I'd say, passionate comments on both sides. We do have rules. We do operate this commission according to those rules. While there will be opportunities for public comment on the ballroom project in the future, we would ask that you not disrupt the commission meeting today. And if you do make an out-of-order disruption of the commission, we will unfortunately have to ask you to leave the room. With that having been said, I'd like to wish everybody here a very happy New Year. This is our first meeting of what promises to be a very important, busy year for this commission. To those of you who have made New Year's resolutions, I quit nicotine 8 days ago. So far we're going strong. If I am irritable or less enthusiastic or energetic as I normally would be, that's the reason. But this year, obviously, being America's 250th anniversary, our semi-quincentennial, there's a lot going on in the capital region, and we have a lot of very exciting projects that have either already come before this commission or will be in the coming weeks and months. And I'm very excited for the role that NCPC will play as the Capitol really pulls out all the stops to celebrate this momentous milestone in American history. I'd also like to welcome Ed Forst to the commission. Ed is the administrator of GSA. As such, he serves as an ex officio member of this commission. Oftentimes, and there's nothing wrong with this, ex officio members of this commission send designees or representatives to commission meetings here. It's a great honor for us to have Ed with us. Ed is really a real estate eminence, former head, I believe, of Cushman and Wakefield. We're really excited to have you at GSA. GSA and NCPC are going to be working together on some very important projects in the coming months, most notably potential redevelopment plans in Southwest DC. I know you and I have already spoken about that, Ed, but really just welcome to the commission. Thank you for being here. It's truly an honor. Lastly, before I conclude, with respect to the ballroom project, which is on the agenda for today, I view today's presentation really as the start of a process as the ballroom project moves through the overall NCPC process. We're going to be hearing from the project team today. This is an informational presentation. We'll have opportunities for questions and comments from commissioners. My objective from the start has been for the NCPC to play a productive role as this ballroom project moves ahead. NCPC has, in our professional staff, has an incredible amount of expertise and experience dealing with complex construction projects and monumental construction projects in the DC area, and I have great confidence that NCPC will be able to play a productive role in this project as well in the months ahead. So I'm excited for the presentation today, and I'm excited to continue the consultations that have already begun at the staff level between NCPC staff and the White House and the ballroom project team more generally. All that having been said, that's my report. We can move on to agenda item 3, which is the report of our executive director, Marcel Acosta. Marcel?
Thank you, Chair Sharp, and Happy New Year, everyone. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome Administrator Forst to today's meeting. We do look forward to working with you and your team over the coming years, so welcome aboard. Given today's busy agenda, I only have one item of interest for the Commission. Last month, NCPC released its 2025 year in review, which looks back at the agency's work advancing efforts to revitalize some of the capital's most visible and important public spaces and its role in shaping the design of several very important federal projects. This report can be found on our website at ncpc.com. This concludes my update. My full report's in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do any commissioners have questions or comments from Marcel? Seeing none, Megan, could you provide us with our legislative update?
Yes, I have 2 legislative items to report on this month. Both are bills that passed in the House of Representatives on December 9th, 2025, and are now being considered in the Senate. The first is H2290, the World War II Women's Memorial Location Act, which authorizes a memorial to commemorate the sacrifice and service of women who worked on the home front to support the military efforts during World War II. And that bill is to be located on the National Mall in Area 1 or in the Reserve. The second bill is H2306, the Adams Memorial Great American Heroes Act. This bill would extend the Adams Memorial Commission through 2032 to establish the Adams Memorial south of the White House, adjacent to Ellipse Road, or if that location ends up being not feasible within the reserve. That concludes my legislative report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Do any commissioners have questions or comments about our legislative update? I look forward to seeing if we do get a new memorial within the reserve or in Area 1. Agenda item 5 is the consent calendar. There are 4 items on this month's consent calendar. The first is to approve preliminary and final site development plans for the Smithsonian Gardens street tree fence design. The second is to adopt the final updated comprehensive plan for the National Capitol, the federal elements proposed by NCPC staff. The third is to approve the final submission guidelines updated by NCPC staff. And both of those two items, those changes primarily reflect changes dictated by executive orders since the start of this administration, I believe. And the final item is to approve preliminary site and building plans for the new District of Columbia Engine Company 7. That was originally a delegated item. I asked for that to be moved to the consent calendar. I apologize for doing that. It could easily have been a delegated item. But that is now item number 4 on the consent calendar this month. Are there any questions or comments from any commissioners? Yes, sir.
That we adopt the consent calendar.
Hearing a motion from Commissioner Dixon, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can the Secretary please confirm the motion and second and take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Dixon and seconded by Commissioner Argo. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Administrator Forrest? Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson? Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Unanimously, which is always a good thing. Moving on, we have 3 voting items and an informational presentation in open session today. Agenda item 6A is a request to approve comments on concept plans for the National Mall and Memorial Parks telecommunications infrastructure improvements. And Stephanie, do you want to proceed?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and Commissioners. The National Park Service has submitted concept plans for the National Mall and Memorial Parks, or NAMA, telecommunications infrastructure improvements. The concept plans provide a planning and technical framework to guide improvements to wireless telecommunications across the National Mall, with the primary goal to inform the minimum build-out necessary to achieve a 5-fold increase in daily network capacity. At the concept stage, the Commission should be focused on issues such as consistency with the comprehensive plan and other policies, appropriateness of the concept plan for the site, or if there are any particularly unique issues, unique or complex issues. The Commission received an informational presentation on this proposal in July 2025. As I mentioned, we are currently at the concept plan review stage. By this spring, NPS will use the concept plans, along with comments from the Commission, the public, and other stakeholders to develop a request for proposals and evaluation criteria under which network providers will submit their proposals. The proposal selected by NPS will then be submitted to the Commission for preliminary and final review. For today's presentation, I will first provide an overview of the purpose of this effort. Then I will discuss the antenna typologies and the conceptual approach to their application, the sub-area recommendations, and then conclude with coordination and implementation. As a reminder, the Commission is responsible for the review of antenna placement and their structures on federal land in the National Capital Region and on district land on District of Columbia-owned land within Washington, D.C. The Commission's primary interest in telecommunications infrastructure improvements on the mall is the potential to impact the visual quality of this unique setting and its nationally significant viewsheds. These improvements also have the potential to impact the status of the National Mall, the White House and President's Park, and the L'Enfant Plan on the National Register of Historic Places. Here we have some examples of telecommunications infrastructure installations on buildings and streetscapes throughout the district. This infrastructure is typically mounted to light poles, pylons, buildings, or similar vertical structures like standalone poles. And here we have a map of those existing installations, indicated here by the red dots. You can see there is an intentional gap in the installations across the National Mall area. In 2019, the Commission approved the Federal Core Interest Area Map as part of the District of Columbia Small Cell Guidelines. This map identifies the only permissible locations for small cell facilities on district rights-of-way in the areas of highest federal interest around the National Mall. The map excluded the National Mall itself, as it was intended at that time that a more comprehensive evaluation of coverage needs and facilities placement would be developed for this area. The proposed NAMA telecommunications infrastructure improvements provide this evaluation as intended for NPS land on the National Mall. As part of this evaluation, NPS completed a cellular coverage report to establish a baseline for existing wireless network performance in the study area. This study concluded, as seen here on the map, that while there are few coverage gaps, the overall quality of the signal is consistently inadequate across the study area due to high user demand. Staff recognizes the growing demand to improve wireless network telecommunications infrastructure, and more importantly, that improving coverage and capacity on existing networks is essential to ensure public safety and enhance the visitor experience on the National Mall. There are several constraints to implementing these improvements, including tree canopy interference, below-grade limitations within the floodplain, and visually integrating physical properties of the antennas and their equipment with the many cultural resources throughout the mall area. Overall, staff finds that the fundamental challenge is how to integrate this infrastructure into this unique area in a way that allows modern technology to meet current needs while preserving the beauty and dignity of the nation's most important public realm and buildings and the symbolic heart of the nation. Therefore, staff supports the intent of the concept plans to provide a general framework to achieve network capacity goals through an evaluation of potentially acceptable telecommunications infrastructure typologies in a way that minimizes impacts to the public realm. As this is just a framework, the infrastructure design is not included. Design is the responsibility of the network providers. Therefore, NPS has included area-wide design criteria to guide their proposals. Staff supports the criteria as it includes strong preference for proposals that limit the quantity of nodes, share nodes between 2 or more network providers, scale the nodes and equipment appropriately within their context, closely reproduce existing architectural elements, integrate nodes with the architectural landscape, and also meet capacity goals. So in this next section of the presentation, I will discuss the antenna typologies evaluated in the concept plans and the conceptual approach to their application. The 4 antenna types evaluated in the concept plans are standalone small cells, dual MNO DRANs or DRAN 2, 4 MNO DRANs or DRAN 4, and neutral hosts. The concept plans do not recommend specific typology approaches, and the ultimate solution will likely include a combination of typologies. Overall, staff finds that there are trade-offs between the size and quantity of antennas and their associated equipment across typologies. For example, typologies that accommodate more than one network provider will require fewer sites, but typically have larger equipment cabinetry than another typology that supports fewer network providers but has more sites and smaller equipment. The concept plans divide the study area into 5 sub-areas: the National Mall East, Washington Monument Grounds and President's Park South, West Potomac Park Lincoln Memorial, West Potomac Park Tidal Basin, and East Potomac Park. For purposes of this presentation, we have labeled them from east to west, sub-areas 1 through 5. Given the unique context of the National Mall, staff finds the antenna typologies with large equipment enclosures that are difficult to conceal are unfavorable, especially adjacent to monuments and memorials, and recommends that where possible, equipment should be creatively concealed by co-locating with other facilities or existing small-scale architectural features, vaulted below grade, or integrated with new developments. To minimize impacts on cultural resources, the concept plans recommend integrating telecommunications infrastructure with existing light poles, memorial lighting stanchions, and building structures. In addition, new standalone poles with a shrouded antenna at the top or a yet-to-be-developed method may be necessary where architectural features do not currently exist. Staff finds that antenna installations on multiple poles of varying designs from different network providers may look disjointed or cluttered, particularly when inserted into a cohesively designed landscape such as that of the National Mall. Therefore, staff requests that NPS work with the carriers and industrial designers to develop unified designs for new standalone poles, adapted or replicated light fixtures, any yet-to-be-developed solutions, and related equipment cabinetry in consultation with NCPC, the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts, and the District State Historic Preservation Office. The 3 light pole types considered for integration in the study area are the Washington Globe, Washington Twin Globe, and Olmsted fixtures, which are contributing features of historic properties. The concept plans indicate that these light poles could be adapted or replaced with close replicas to seamlessly incorporate telecommunications infrastructure while also offering lighting. Overall, staff finds this approach may have fewer visual impacts than more commonly used methods and supports its further development. However, if such an approach is proposed, a balance must be reached between the quantity of historic light fixtures that are altered or replaced, which may vary between sub-areas. Many of the memorials and commemorative works within the study area currently utilize special lighting stanchions, as seen here on the left, which are not contributing features of historic properties. The concept plans indicate the light stanchions could be redesigned to incorporate all existing functionality and house antenna infrastructure with a similar visual character as those in place today, as seen here in the illustrative examples on the right. Overall, staff supports this approach, as the stanchions currently exist as utilitarian elements in the National Mall landscape. Therefore, they will be less noticeable than antenna installations on other existing architectural features. The study area also contains multiple types of buildings, including non-contributing standalone comfort stations and multiple food, information, and souvenir kiosks, which would be considered on a case-by-case basis as needed for mounting antennas. Staff will utilize the antenna installation practices and policies of the comprehensive plan and NCPC's antenna submission guidelines criteria in the review of antennas attached to structures on the National Mall. As noted earlier, the concept plans divide the study area into 5 sub-areas. For staff's analysis, sub-area 1, the National Mall East, and sub-area 5, East Potomac Park, are analyzed individually, as they have the highest and lowest potential for visual impacts, respectively. Sub-areas 2, 3, and 4 are discussed collectively, as they contain similar features such as nationally significant monuments and memorial sites and preeminent viewsheds. I'll begin with sub-area 1, National Mall East. This sub-area contains the nationally significant formal landscape defined by central lawn panels lined with historic Olmsted light fixtures and multiple rows of trees that frame the preeminent reciprocal viewshed between the U.S. Capitol and the Washington Monument. Staff also finds that proposed telecommunications in this sub-area will have the highest potential for visual impacts due to its rectilinear form, symmetrical features, and overall formal character that define this viewshed. The concept plans identify potential locations for new telecommunications infrastructure along the outside edge of the center lawn panels, as indicated by the green and yellow dots here on the plan, roughly aligned with the existing Olmsted light poles. The plans also suggest replacing the existing Olmsted light poles with close replicas that seamlessly incorporate telecommunications infrastructure while also offering lighting, or a yet-to-be-developed method. Next, I will discuss sub-area 5, East Potomac Park. This sub-area includes Haynes Point, the East Potomac Park Golf Course, the U.S. Park Police, and NPS National Capital Region headquarters. Network service is currently limited in this area to traditional macro sites at the north end, where the NPS and U.S. Park Police buildings are located. However, capacity demand is less here than in other sub-areas. Overall, staff finds that the proposed telecommunications in this sub-area have the least potential for visual impacts, as this is a less formal landscape located outside of significant viewsheds. The concept plans identify locations for new telecommunications infrastructure in line with the existing Washington Globe light poles along Ohio Drive. These would likely be standalone poles, Washington Globe replicas, or a yet-to-be-developed method. The remaining sub-areas include the Washington Monument Grounds and President Park South, the West Potomac Park Lincoln Memorial, and the West Potomac Park Tidal Basin. Telecommunications infrastructure in these 3 sub-areas would likely take shape as standalone poles, Washington Twin Globe or Washington Globe replicas, a yet-to-be-developed method, or placed on memorial lighting stanchions. In sub-area 2 at President's Park South, the concept plans indicate that 2 telecommunications nodes would be placed along the roadway encircling the ellipse, in line with the Washington Globe light poles. Within the Washington Monument grounds, the telecommunications infrastructure would be located on light stanchions and the monument screening facility. However, staff finds it will be difficult to fully conceal or architecturally integrate any antenna typology on the Washington Monument screening facility due to the building's symmetry, rectilinear form, glass facade, horizontal roofline, and immediate adjacency to the Washington Monument. Therefore, staff requests the applicant consider alternatives to placing the telecommunications infrastructure on the screening facility that would improve capacity without altering the appearance of the facility and therefore the view of the monument. In sub-area 3, West Potomac Park, Lincoln Memorial, the concept plans identify locations for new telecommunications infrastructure along 17th Street, Parkway Drive, Ash Road, through Constitution Gardens and around the Lincoln Memorial, including on the lighting stanchions. And in sub-area 4, West Potomac Park Tidal Basin, the concept plans identify new telecommunication infrastructure locations along sidewalks and paths around the Tidal Basin and Ohio Drive. Light stanchions at the Jefferson and FDR memorials would also be utilized. So in summary, staff supports further development of the approach to closely replicate the historic light fixtures to accommodate telecommunications in all of the sub-areas. But there must be a balance between the number of light fixtures retained and those altered or replaced, which may vary between sub-area. Staff also supports utilizing the lighting stanchions where available and further development of a yet-to-be-developed method that minimizes visual impacts. Staff finds that standalone poles may be acceptable outside of preeminent view sheds in sub-areas 2 through 5, but would not be appropriate at all in sub-area 1. In addition, antennas externally attached to the light fixtures would not be appropriate anywhere in the study area. And while the building-mounted antennas throughout the study area are expected to comply with NCPC's antenna guidelines, staff requests the applicant explore alternatives to mounting antennas on the Washington Monument screening facility. And in all sub-areas, staff also supports equipment cabinetry that can be creatively concealed, but recognizes there may be additional flexibility for larger equipment in sub-area 5, East Potomac Park, if that means fewer historic light fixtures are impacted. So now we will move on to the last segment of this presentation, which addresses additional coordination and implementation. It is worth noting that the telecommunications infrastructure improvements on the National Mall landscape and the macro antenna sites on the adjacent rooftops ultimately create a network of wireless systems that work together to reach coverage and capacity goals. Therefore, staff finds that the amount of antenna infrastructure needed in the National Mall landscape may be less if macro sites on the adjacent building rooftops are added or upgraded. However, antenna installations on these buildings also have historic preservation and view shed implications. Therefore, staff recommends the telecommunication providers continue to explore, in consultation with the Section 106 consulting parties, how additional or upgraded rooftop antenna macro sites surrounding the study area, when designed sensitively, could help to reduce the quantity of telecommunications infrastructure on the National Mall. The RFP is another opportunity to ensure stakeholders are coordinated throughout the design and implementation processes. Therefore, staff requests that the RFP include requests for eye-level photorealistic simulations of the proposed infrastructure within significant view sheds and from primary approaches, reference to NCPC's comprehensive plan and antenna submission guidelines, a coordinated phasing strategy that outlines the methodology and timeline for how antennas will be installed, and expectations for network provider maintenance of the installations and restoration should they be removed in the future. So this concludes my presentation. I've incorporated the executive director's recommendations into my presentation. Also have them listed here as well as in the staff report. And I would now like to introduce Krista Sherwood, Chief of Staff for the National Mall and Memorial Parks, who would like to say a few words. Thank you. She is online, yes. Yes.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me turn my camera on. Wonderful. Sorry for the delay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Krista Sherwood, Chief of Staff for the National Mall and Memorial Parks. Thank you to NCPC staff for that great comprehensive overview of the effort, and thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. The National Park Service is finalizing this telecommunications concept plan for the National Mall and surrounding MPS park areas in Washington, D.C. The MPS submitted the concept plan for NCPC review and comments and appreciates the Commission's input on this plan. The plan identifies opportunities to improve wireless coverage and capacity in this area while protecting the views, the character, and historic resources of the park. We do recognize the need and urgency for these improvements and are aiming to finalize the plan and implement opportunities to enhance public safety, connectivity, and the overall visitor experience as quickly as possible. So in the coming weeks, the MPS will issue a request for proposals for mobile network operators and neutral host providers to submit formal proposals. And this RFP will describe the limited opportunities for improvements that are identified in the plan and the applicable siting and design criteria. These proposals will be evaluated in a transparent, equitable, and technically coordinated manner that's consistent with the National Park Service policy and the Department of the Interior guidance for issuance of right-of-way permits for telecommunications infrastructure improvements. We plan to incorporate the comments that are received from NCPC and incorporate these into the RFP, and if applicable, the value in which we review the proposals. The MPS will return to NCPC once we have selected a proposal and have a proposed preliminary design to submit for NCPC's consideration. We will also provide the final design to NCPC for further review and consideration. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and when it's appropriate, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Krista, and thank you again, Stephanie. Do any commissioners have any questions for either of our two presenters on this?
Chairman,
yes, sir.
I'd like to I have some questions and discussion at my turn when we get to us, but I'd also like to move that we move it for consideration and discussion, so we'll have something before us.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, I will now open this item up to the commission for discussion. You're short-circuiting our whole system here, Arrington. With that, Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you, and thank you for the great presentation and overview of the plan. This plan has been a long time coming, and we're really thankful to be at this part of the process. It really does set a framework for how telecommunication infrastructure can be implemented on the National Mall and the Ellipse and President's Park in a way that is respectful of the historic character, but yet provides the necessary capacity and coverage needed for wide-scale events and, frankly, just everyday visitor use. So we're looking forward to our continued work with the carriers and developing this beyond the framework to actually have a proposal and a design to bring back to the commission.
Thanks, Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Argo?
No additional comments. Present. We are on this and hoping it moves.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach?
So I thought that the data were pretty compelling, that there's a need for coverage in the mall, and so this is an important project. It's an important project for public safety. It's important this year given the amount of use we're going to see of the area, and so I think my only comment is that it's important to manage it in a way where it can move forward in an expeditious way. Obviously, supporting all the comments and the very, it seems, eminently reasonable strategy for how to incorporate the infrastructure into existing lighting and so forth. But setting it up where you have performance standards and then you let the vendors meet the standards, as opposed to getting into a lot of touch points and a lot of friction with the project.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Blair.
All
would just echo Commissioner Levenbach's comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Blair. Administrator Forst.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I thought it was very comprehensive, and it's, again, not a question of whether we need it, but how to go about it. And I think you show great respect for the different territories there and how we might address it locally. But I was most persuaded by the fact that you're very open to looking for yet-to-be-developed models. And so I look forward to being sensitive to that design aesthetic, and appreciate the time.
Thank you, Administrator Forst. Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, I just didn't mean to throw a ringer in here, but I've always kind of believed we ought to have something before us, before we discuss it.
Gotcha.
That's kind of, but anyhow, I don't always win on that one, but
I usually open things up for questions from the presenters before shifting to the discussion section, but you've been here longer than I have, Harrington, so. Yes, sir.
I do have a couple of questions. One, is this going to be a single or multi-vendor opportunity? Because we've had this discussion before, and the question is, let's suppose that X company gets it. Can Y and Z company telephones be used in that environment? And that's of interest to me. It also gets us into the hoteling and whether we can have multiple carriers on one device. I also was interested in whether or not it's possible when you look at East Potomac Park, there is always been a lighting issue there because we've restricted the use of it to restricted nighttime use of it. I would like to think that maybe we can figure out we do these things to put some lighting in that is manageable, that will allow that to be available even in the evening sometime when some event is appropriate for it, rather than have the dark areas, the limited lighted areas that exist now. I also was concerned about there's a multi-host provision that they're looking at. I don't know whether that addresses my issue about the multi-carriers, because I've been concerned about that with all of this Wi-Fi kind of services. That, if you have a certain carrier on your phone, can you get in? That's important to me to know. So maybe that can be answered by someone. I don't know.
Sure, I can hit those questions.
Yes.
So let's start with the lighting.
Yes.
As we continue to move forward with a variety of projects.
Good.
Part of the discussion.
Good.
As for carriers and hoteling and multiple carriers, we are strong by using the prospectus model for carriers to provide proposals to the National Park Service for consideration. That gives everyone the same opportunity to develop proposals and come to meet the criteria, but it also gives the carriers a great opportunity to coordinate together and work together to develop a solution that not only meets our needs and criteria and the needs of the public and safety needs, but also the needs of the carriers together, not competing them against each other, but having them work together. So we're strongly encouraging that approach, and we'll have to see where we end up.
I know that with the metro system for many years, we were unable to use our cell phones if we didn't have the right carrier. And there was evidently heavy lobby to keep the single carrier there. But now that has changed, and I think it's beneficial to the public to be able to have multiple carriers and access the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks. I just want to thank the staff. I just want to point out on all these telecom, the 5G antennas and all that, I think the commission and the staff especially is really a leader in this because they kind of push the envelope and say this is how it should be done. And it's a lot of kicking and screaming on the front end, but I think it's always resulted in installations that look nice, that don't clutter things, and it's really been kind of the commission taking the lead on this and kind of pushing the envelope and getting the carriers to follow suit. So thanks to staff for all the work they've done on this, and thanks for the presentation.
Thanks, Commissioner Cash. Commissioner Henderson?
Nothing to add on this one, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Do we have Commissioner McGowan with us?
Yes, I don't have any comments or questions to add, but would just thank staff for the time in the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kozar?
Yes, thanks to the staff for the presentation, and I'll associate myself with Commissioner Cash's comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Schaefer?
Nothing that no one else already said, so great job. Thank you.
Well, speaking personally, looking at the bandwidth demands, I think it's somewhat sad that people are on their phones streaming video and putting up Snapchats and Instagrams instead of enjoying some of the most beautiful monuments. But being that that's where we are, I commend our staff and NPS on working through difficult problem. I think particularly the idea of essentially repurposing the Olmsted and Washington Globe light fixtures makes a lot of sense. I remember when this came before us in July, and it's great to see the progress that's been made since then. Again, speaking for myself, and I think probably most of the commission, I'm excited to see how things develop in the months ahead, especially given the demands that are going to be present because of America 250 celebrations, and really just going forward into the future. So with that, I guess we need to vote to approve comments. So, Megan, can you please confirm the motion in the second, and then we'll take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Dixon and seconded by Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Administrator Forrest?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we will move to agenda item 6B, which is a request to approve final site development plans for the Long Bridge Corridor Project South section. Michael Weil, I believe, is with us. Hey, Michael.
Thank you.
Do you want to proceed?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Good afternoon again, Chairman Scharf and members of the Commission. The National Park Service, on behalf of the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, or VPRA, has submitted plans to improve a half-mile long section of the Long Bridge Railway Corridor, crossing over the George Washington Memorial Parkway and Mount Vernon Trail in Arlington, Virginia, and across the Potomac River to East Potomac Park in the District of Columbia. As background, the project would add 2 new tracks to the Long Bridge corridor for a total of 4 tracks, with the purpose of providing additional rail capacity and improving travel reliability into the city and through the region for the direct benefit of passenger train service. And this project is part of a larger plan by VPRA to improve passenger rail service throughout the state of Virginia. The current Long Bridge project is the product of a multi-year alternatives analysis and NEPA study process, which started back in 2011. And the process concluded with a signed Federal Railroad Administration Record of Decision and Programmatic Agreement in 2020, with additional supplemental NEPA analysis by the Park Service in 2024. And then finally, NCPC has written a Record of Decision in order to conclude our NEPA review responsibility as part of our final review action here today, and we reflect this in our Executive Director's recommendation comments. The project would construct 1 new separate 2-track rail bridge, approximately 40 feet to the north of the existing Long Bridge, which is outlined here in white, as well as a new separate pedestrian and bicycle bridge to the north of that, which is highlighted here in orange. Previously, our commission approved previous preliminary plans for the full length of the corridor improvements across federal National Park Service land back in July of 2022. And more recently, NCPC approved the final plans for the north part of the corridor in April of 2025. And today we are reviewing the final plans for the remainder of the corridor, known as the south section, to complete our review process under the National Capital Planning Act. As a final submission package, we are considering issues like the project's final landscape plans, its overall architectural aesthetic, and how VPRA has responded to the Commission's previous preliminary approval comments. Today, the South Section project area extends from the western boundary of the National Park Service property along the western side of the George Washington Memorial Parkway, which is shown here. And then panning across the parkway, the study area would extend along the north side of the existing CSX transportation railway bridge that you can see here in this slide, and then extending to the east toward the Potomac River as seen here. The new tracks will bridge over the Mount Vernon Trail closer to the river, and then finally over the Potomac River to the western side of East Potomac Park. The historic Long Bridge, which exists today, was originally constructed in 1904 as a through girder structure for both passenger and freight rail trains. And here we can see the Long Bridge's distinctive swing truss section, which was once used to allow larger watercraft to move along the river past the bridge. However, this section is no longer operational and necessary for water traffic today. Here are some closer-up views of the historic Long Bridge with its granite block piers, 10-foot high weathered steel parapet walls, and girders today. Long Bridge is listed on the National Register as a contributing element to both the East and West Potomac Parks and George Washington Memorial Parkway historic districts. And as such, VPRA adopted the overarching design goal to approximate the historic features of the existing bridge in the design of the new bridge. And this includes its structure, material, and form, thereby minimizing future adverse effects to the areas surrounding historic resources and character that would arise from a different type of bridge here. So with that, I will now walk you through the proposed south section widening project submission that is before our commission here today for review. The basic elements of the project are a new separate half-mile long through girder rail bridge that would span over the Parkway, Mount Vernon Trail, and Potomac River, a new separate pedestrian and bicycle bridge over the Parkway and river, and new landscaping and lighting. Starting with the new rail bridge, the new Long Bridge would be owned by VPRA and used to prioritize passenger rail service, although either bridge could be used for passenger or freight rail service as needed. The new Long Bridge would resemble the existing historic Long Bridge with weathering steel parapet walls. However, the new bridge would not include a swing span section, which is unnecessary for river travel today. The new bridge would have 25 granite stone cladded piers with cladding that resembles the existing granite block piers, and these specs remain largely unchanged since NCPC's 2022 preliminary design review. To the west, the new rail bridge would cross over the Mount Vernon Trail with the same through girder design, but with one notable difference. The new bridge would have two reinforced concrete multi-point piers located adjacent to either side of the trail in order to increase user visibility and safety along the trail. And the rail bridge over the Parkway would have broken ashlar stone cladded piers and a slightly arched spans in order to resemble the existing rail bridge and to reflect the Parkway's rustic looking appearance and materials. And we express our support for incorporating these features into the new bridge over the Parkway here as part of our Executive Director's recommendation comments. In addition, we include a finding in the Executive Director's recommendation comments that the new bridge meets the VPRA goal of approximating the design of the existing historic Long Bridge, which was supported by our Commission as part of its 2022 design review action comments. Moving on to the new pedestrian and bicycle bridge, VPRA would construct the new bridge approximately 25 feet to the north of the new long rail bridge with a prefabricated truss design that is based on its necessary length, required clearances, and intended use. The new crossing would extend between Long Bridge Park in Arlington, Virginia, and East Potomac Park in the District of Columbia. And the bridge was developed as mitigation for the project's need to use federal parkland as part of the wider railway corridor. The new bike ped bridge would be the only freestanding crossing of its kind over the Potomac River in the area and would serve as a valuable connection within the larger Arlington district and regional trail networks in the future. The new bridge would extend over the parkway as a single span with an arched truss for support along the north side of the new rail bridge as shown here. The bridge would have direct ramp and stair connections to the existing Mount Vernon Trail, and the project would widen the trail to the east and west in order to create a larger landing and plaza area here, so that trail users would be able to make that connection out of the way of faster moving bicycle traffic traveling along the Mount Vernon Trail. The new bridge would measure 20 feet across with an overlook area, as shown here on the left, with circular reinforced concrete piers for support, as shown on the right side of the slide. And then the new bridge would land on the western side of East Potomac Park, as shown here, adjacent to Ohio Drive West. Since NCPC's 2022 preliminary review, VPRA has made several beneficial changes to the bridge design, including widening the bridge deck to facilitate bidirectional travel and passing movements. And this was based on previous public testimony and guidance by the Park Service, NCPC, and other stakeholder agencies. VPRA has simplified the bridge design both to reduce its visual appearance in the area and to improve outward viewing opportunities for the bridge users, as illustrated here in these renderings. And finally, VPRA proposes to paint the bridge truss in a federal standard brown, which is the same color as other bridges in the Park Service inventory. And the brown would also help blend the bridge in with the other nearby railway bridges visually. And we support the wider bridge deck in the Executive Director's recommendation comments. And we also include a finding related to the proposed changes to the bridge design, which were made in response to our Commission's previous preliminary review comments. At night, the new bridge, which would be maintained by DDOT, would use embedded lights within the handrails in order to illuminate the bridge deck and to minimize light spillage from the bridge. The applicant includes two different alternatives in the project submission, with lights spaced at either 4-foot or 8-foot intervals. And between the two, staff recommends that VPRA use an 8-foot spacing in order to lessen the future bridge lighting. In terms of landscaping, VPRA has developed a plan that accomplishes several different design goals, which include restoring the corridor's natural look once the project construction is complete with filtered views, and preserving several critical view sheds. Plans show a wide mix of canopy, ornamental, and evergreen trees with mostly native species used, but the plans also show some non-native species based on the park's historic planting plan, with which NCPC guidance does allow as long as the species are not invasive. Here you can see the new mix of trees on the western side of the river in Virginia. And then here's the proposed new landscaping on the east side of the river in East Potomac Park. The new trees would be different heights and positioned in such a way that there would be filtered views of the new retaining walls and bridges, with periodic gaps in the new vegetation as shown here in these renderings in this elevation. And staff comments include support for the project's proposed planting palette, as well as a note that the plans accomplish the project's design goals of achieving a naturalized look, maintaining views of the corridor and river, and integrating both pollinator and native plant species into the future landscape in these areas. So that concludes my presentation, and before I conclude, I've incorporated many of these comments into today's presentation, and they are also included in our staff reports. And I also want to note that we have drafted a record of decision that applies to the portion of the project that is located within the District of Columbia as per the National Capital Planning Act. And we are recommending adoption of the ROD here today as part of the final Commission review action. And I would also like to note that in addition to Park Service representatives here at today's meeting, we also have 2 consultants who are in the meeting today virtually, the project's landscape architect and project manager for the design build team. And we also have 2 representatives here today in person from VPRA, Ms. Charlene Cleveland and Ms. Naomi Klein. And they are all available now to answer any questions related to the project that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm sorry. Proceeding, do any commissioners have any questions, comments, or is there a motion on the floor? Ed?
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. And I'm late to this, so I apologize if you've handled these questions before. One comment. I think it's a great idea, particularly with the return to office mandate that the federal government has, to have more ways for people to get to and from work and to get a little bit of exercise. I think it's outstanding. So that's comment 1. Question 2, over that span, had you and the consultants considered the inclusion of any security cameras or anything over that 1.8-mile stretch?
Not to my knowledge, but I'm happy to let VPRA speak to that.
Yes, it's definitely been discussed, though right now we don't have any plans to install those. I mean, that would come in the future potentially, but not in the current plan.
Was that decision reached in consultation with security professionals?
Oh, no, it's not like we're not going to do it. We just haven't come to that point. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. Yeah, but definitely a great idea.
What might be the forcing function to include that in the future?
Oh, forcing function? Oh, we would be happy to do it. And we've discussed that with DDOT and would have to look. I mean, we already do have cameras in the corridor that are tracking the construction.
Understand.
So it would be very easy to convert those over to, full-time security surveillance.
Made my point. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, just a question. First, fantastic laydown. I guess the only question I have, and I can't tell from the charts, on the pedestrian bridge on the overlook, what exactly are you overlooking? Because it looks like you're looking at the side of the bridge.
Well,
so maybe it's the way it's presented.
The historic Long Bridge.
35. Yep, go back one. So I just can't tell.
So you're looking in the direction of the Metro Rail bridge, which is upstream on the right, and I believe you can see along the river under the spans.
It's not really meant to be an overlook, but it's really a ramp down to the Mount Vernon Trail.
Oh, is that okay?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So we were really limited about how high we could make this bridge because you have to have, for ADA purposes, it can only slope so much. We needed to get it high enough to clear the navigation channel. So we really kind of boxed in about how high we could make this bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to make it sound like it was a separate. It was kind of the
Okay. Got it.
It could also be used as an overlook. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
So one thing that kind of jumped out to me, folks have been around for a while, I remember this, but I saw Aslar stone cladding. That's not form stone, that's actual stone.
Actual stone.
Okay, that was my question, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve final site development plans for the Longbridge Corridor project? Is there a second? Madam Secretary, can you confirm the motion in the second? Let's open things up for formal discussion. We went so far down questions that I lost myself again. Let's start deliberations with Commissioner Kozart.
Thank you to the staff for the presentation. Glad to see the project moving forward. No other questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schaefer?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stidham?
We are very thankful for this project and our work with VPRA over many, many, many years to get to this point. So we're really excited for this project to move forward. The addition of the pedestrian bridge will be a real change for everyone in the area. So we appreciate all of the work from NCPC and our work with VPRA to get this where we are.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo.
No additional comments other than this is exciting and much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
I have no comments. Thanks for the great presentation, Mike. Thank you.
Commissioner Blair.
No comments, thank you.
Administrator Forrest.
Satisfied, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Commissioner Dixon.
I'm very happy with this. I would comment that historically, off of bridges, I think one of these bridges, there used to be a swimming meet, and people would dive into the river and swim here. And now that the river is going to become hopefully clean enough to swim in, who knows? Maybe we'll have another swimming meet from these bridges. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do one day hope that the Potomac River is cleaning up.
Well, we're getting it clean.
and hopefully it'll be warm enough. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks so much. I did just want to make one comment, and this kind of struck me at preliminary too. So the footings that are over the Mount Vernon Trail, it does actually kind of strike me that they're just the piers when everything else along there is the stone cladding. It actually seems like when you're going along there, you're going to go from feeling kind of historic all of a sudden to see these very modern piers that almost feel like a metro pier. So I know that you said it's for security or something like that. I didn't quite get that, but I wouldn't object or anything. I noticed in the photos that it's very striking that it's a very different style from everything else. So I just wanted to put that out there if there's any opportunity to maybe have some other cladding or something like that at some point. But yeah, so thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson.
No further questions or discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McGowan.
Don't have any further comments or questions, but thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank VPRA, NPS, obviously our commission staff. I think this is one of those projects where when you look at the earlier renderings compared to where we're at now, you see a real noticeable improvement. I think this is in a great place. I'm also excited about both increased rail access, given return to office, as Administrator Forrest said. I think that's a vital need. And also the pedestrian access. I'm not much of a biker, but if I were, that might be a nice route to have and nice connectivity with other bike trails. So with that having been said, I think we can, if there are no further questions or comments from any other commissioners, Madam Secretary, can you please confirm the motion and second and take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Stidham and seconded by Administrator Forrest. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Administrator Forrest?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, thank you very much, Michael, and I'm sorry from VPRA, Shirley. Thank you. And we'll proceed to agenda item 6C, which I'm particularly excited about. This is a request to approve comments on concept plans for the National Zoological Park construct new Arabian leopard habitat. Laura Shipman is with us. Laura, do you want to proceed?
Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and members of the Commission. I will be presenting on behalf of the project officer, Jamie Herr. The Smithsonian Institution has submitted concept plans to construct an Arabian leopard habitat at the National Zoological Park in Northwest Washington, D.C. for Commission comment. As this is a concept review, the focus of today's presentation is to receive Commission comments and feedback prior to preparing the next submission. In this case, the focus of the review is understanding the appropriateness of the project for the context and understanding any particularly unique or complex issues that may need to be addressed. As such, in today's presentation, staff has prepared comments on the concept plan for the Commission to consider and give the applicant as guidance for further project development. The proposed project is located at the northern end of the National Zoological Park complex, close to the main entry on Connecticut Avenue. Founded in 1889, the National Zoo is part of the Smithsonian Institution and the National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. The two campuses are home to more than 2,200 animals, including some of the planet's most critically endangered species. To that end, the Smithsonian Institution has entered into a partnership to advance conservation efforts for the critically endangered Arabian leopard. The proposed facility will provide year-round public viewing of adult and cub leopards that will support education around conservation of this unique species. The goals of the project are to include a large open-air habitat designed with the flexibility to accommodate future species and with opportunities for the cats to display their natural climbing behaviors. A new animal care facility with day room, dens, and staff support space, and accessible public viewing areas, including a VIP viewing area designed within the context of the existing site that we will reuse the bison structures if possible. In addition, the habitat needs to be designed with the influence of the arid Rocky Mountains of the Arabian Peninsula while taking into consideration the historic environment of the National Zoological Park Historic District and Olmsted Walk. Staff supports these goals for the new Arabian leopard habitat. The project site is approximately 3/4 of an acre and is prominently located at a north bend in the Olmsted Walk. Situated between the panda habitat and the elephant house exhibit, it is close to the Connecticut Avenue entrance and across from the bus group entry, the restroom facility, and the Panda Plaza concessions area, all of which are heavily used by visitors. Two existing exhibits currently occupy the site, the former bison habitat, closed since 2024, and the Zoo in Your Backyard exhibit, which features plants native to the Washington, D.C. area. The site contains several facilities in support of the two existing exhibits. None of these structures are historic, and most will not be retained. The site also includes a variety of vegetation as well as existing trees. Some trees may need to be replaced if they cannot be preserved. In addition, there is varied topography across the site that must be addressed in the proposed design, as shown in this existing site section. The National Zoo is mostly covered by the National Zoological Park Historic District, as noted here. The map shown notes both the Olmsted Walk and the other contributing resources in the district. The proposed habitat site is adjacent to the Olmsted Walk and Elephant House, which are both contributing resources to the historic district. The applicant has initiated the Section 106 process, and more information will be included with the next submission. Pictured here are site elements that are considered contributing to the historic district. On the left is the historic Elephant House building, and on the right are examples of Olmsted Walk features, including the use of buffers and berms at the edge, the primary and secondary pavers and paving systems, and the large mature tree canopy. In addition, the use of stone, low-profile roof lines, and consistent furnishings are other examples. The guiding principle at the creation of the park was that architecture should empower the landscape, subtly supporting the visitor's encounters with nature. This helps outline the goals of any new additions at the park to balance the natural setting with the needs of contemporary zoological care, conservation, and visitor engagement. In designing the new habitat, the applicant wanted to reflect this through the architectural language, with buildings designed as part of the topography, framed by tree canopies and woven into the context. Specifically, the applicant has taken elements such as the stone, green-colored roofing, and brick as inspiration for the new habitat building, as well as the shapes and materials of the Arabian Peninsula. There are three main elements of the habitat that the applicant studied, including the habitat, care building, and the enclosure. At the beginning of the design process, the applicant evaluated three habitat concepts: Oasis, Wadi, and Oasis Wadi Hybrid. The Oasis concept on the left had a single point of entry from Olmsted Walk into a looped accessible circulation path built around a central pool like you would find in the Arabian Desert. The wadi concept in the center included an accessible path through the exhibit from west to east as a more linear experience, similar to the meandering of a wadi riverbed. The Oasis Wadi hybrid on the right combines both schemes to offer a meandering, accessible path organized around a central pool oasis, creating multiple vantage points for visitors as they proceed through the exhibit. The Oasis Wadi hybrid has been chosen as the preferred scheme for this concept report, as it provides multiple points of entry off the Olmsted Walk at a very busy section. Visitors can view the exhibit from multiple points throughout the exhibit itself, as well as directly off of Olmsted Walk, creating a variety of viewing experiences. The developed building mass concepts the applicant developed are based on the Oasis Wadi hybrid as the preferred site design. As part of the design process, it was necessary to add an enclosure, as Arabian leopards are excellent climbers and use trees to escape predators and scan their hunting territory. These are existing precedents for such enclosures at the National Zoo that include the Great Flight Aviary masted turnstile structure with mesh and arches, the Gibbon enclosure with masted tensile mesh structure, and the orangutan O-line exhibit. The applicant studied options for the mesh enclosure. The first option is an arched mesh shown here. An arched mesh would have no supports within the habitat and allow for more flexibility when changing the habitat later. I will note that the applicant also is studying the exact form of the arch, which may include something with a more vertical or peaked form. These details will be further developed for the next submission. The applicant also studied a massed tensile mesh structure for the habitat. This option wasn't preferred due to the multiplanar nature of the system and two separate forms, which call undue attention in the setting. This type of structure would also create visual clutter adjacent to Olmsted Walk and would limit the flexibility to modify the exhibit elements in the future. The proposed concept combines the Oasis and Wadi hybrid habitat with gabled sweep care building and an arched mesh enclosure to meet the goals for the habitat. As such, staff recommends the Commission support the applicant's preferred concept design, referred to as the Oasis Wadi hybrid concept, and in particular, the arched, clear span form of the screen enclosure, which will help minimize its overall visibility, the simple, low massing for the leopard building, including the use of curvilinear forms to integrate the building into the landscape and reflect the architectural heritage of the Arabian Peninsula, integrating the use of stone and other natural materials that are found throughout the zoo, which provide a sense of continuity across the campus, providing areas for landscaping and screening along Olmsted Walk, and a circulation approach that avoids conflicts with adjacent exhibits. The applicant has included several rendered views of the concept. The first view is from the Olmsted Walk, where you can see some of the recognizable features including the tree canopy and pavers as you approach the habitat. This view shows the west entry into the habitat and the proposed arch mesh. The tree canopy of the Olmsted Walk opens up here at the east entry so visitors can see into the habitat with the upturned building roof drawing them into the viewing area. Staff recommends the applicant continue to refine the preferred design to extend the curvilinear language to other portions of the building and simplify or lower the building roofline where possible or where feasible. Explore alternative profiles such as thinner or rounded for the main structural members of the mesh enclosure to reduce visual impacts. From this view into the east entry, you can see the bridge that allows the animals to cross from one side of the habitat to the other and over visitors. This final rendered view shows the eastern corner of the animal care facility with the service entrance on the left-hand side. Staff recommends the Commission request the applicant provide as part of the next submission a landscape plan and further details on the screening approach along the Olmsted Walk, proposed signage and wayfinding that will help identify the exhibit and guide visitors, and updated site and building plans along with renderings that are aligned with the preferred concept. This concludes the presentation. The recommendations have been integrated throughout the presentation and are included here for your reference. Overall, staff finds the proposed concept design is consistent with the policies set forth in the federal elements of the comprehensive plan and meets the stated project goals. We look forward to working with the applicant to refine the application so this important project can be implemented in a timely manner. At this time, Brandy Smith, the National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute Director, would like to say a few words about the project, and the design team is here to help answer any questions the Commission may have. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Laura. Brandy, are you with us online or in person? Online.
I'm here online. So thank you, Ms. Shipman, for your presentation, and thank you, Chairman Scharf and members of the Commission. On behalf of the Smithsonian National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, we are pleased to present the Construct Arabian Leopard Habitat project to the Commission. This project will transform an empty animal habitat into a dynamic public exhibit to the critically endangered Arabian leopard. The Smithsonian's National Zoo is a global leader in saving species from extinction. Our scientists and animal care experts work across 6 continents to protect wildlife, restore habitats, and translate science into real-world conservation action. With fewer than an estimated 120 individuals remaining on the planet, the Arabian leopard faces an extremely high risk of extinction, and in this exhibit is part of a broader conservation and research program to help save one of the world's most threatened big cats. Our expertise is urgently needed. As the nation's zoo, visitors travel from across the region, the United States, and the world to see animals, experience appreciation and awe, and leave with a deeper understanding of the challenges these species face. Through this exhibit and conservation program, the public will gain insight into the threats driving the Arabian leopard extinction and the role science plays in preventing it. We look forward to continuing design development on this project in coordination with NCPC staff and through Section 106 consultation process. This project has a compressed schedule with construction completion anticipated by late fall, early winter of 2028 to allow time for the leopards to adjust to their habitat prior to the public opening. We will return to the Commission multiple times throughout the year as we work collaboratively on design development. I'm joined today by the project team with design professionals from Smith Group and the Smithsonian's Office of Planning, Design, and Construction to address your comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Do any commissioners have any questions?
Chairman?
Oh, yes, sir.
I can't wait for this to happen. I have several reasons. First of all, we've had some breakouts on occasion, but I feel this is being planned well enough that that will not happen.
If it does happen, the pandas are in real danger. They just sit around all day. These leopards, we're building a whole structure to keep them in. It's kind of crazy.
So I'll make a motion as I tried on occasion ahead so we can vote and discuss on it, this issue. But I'd like to move that we adopt this presentation.
Okay. Is there a second to Commissioner Dixon's motion?
I'll second.
Hearing a motion and a second, let's proceed to discussion. Commissioner Dixon, would you like to lead things off, given your excitement at the project?
I just can't wait. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cash.
Well, I just want to say I hope that we'll also hear a little bit more about the mesh because I'm not a big fan of cats, but I've seen enough screen doors to know that we need to make sure we have the right materials, not just the right colors, to just save the panda. So thanks. I think this is actually a great project. I appreciate the massing studies and everything else going into this, especially since it's moving so quickly. I think it gives us the information we need to move along. So thanks.
Hopefully we'll have more details on the mesh when they come back for prelim. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson.
I just dissociate myself with those remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
I don't have any additional comments or questions, but thank you so much for the presentation. It was awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kozar.
I appreciate the staff's work on this project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schaefer.
This is exciting. Just the whole concept, and I look forward to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you. I think you've been really thoughtful about the design of the habitat, and the hybrid approach definitely is the right approach. You're looking at it in terms of its ability to both have a great space for the leopard, but also how it fits into the zoo as it exists now. So really nice concept design. Look forward to seeing more.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo.
I echo your comments, and this is thoughtful, this is exciting. I've got 9 grandchildren, which has nothing to do with it, except, we go there all the time because they all come at different times. It's a challenge, and it's so exciting to see something like this come. We haven't seen anything really dramatic like this come to the zoo that has changed the whole landscape of the zoo for a long time. So, yay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Or sorry, excuse me, Vice Chairman Levenbach, looking right at you.
Walking underneath Arabian leopard is an experience you get in the wild, and if you do it, you don't typically get a second opportunity. so I'm looking forward to enjoying this when it gets built.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Blair.
I will speak on behalf of the 3 Blair children that we're very excited about.
Thank you, Commissioner. Administrator Forrest.
I feel compelled to bring some balance to the conversation, and I'm very disappointed we don't have an Arabian leopard here. But other than that, thank you.
So speaking for myself, I was with the president, James was as well, when we went to Saudi Arabia and these leopards were promised. There's actually a long history of great cats and presidents in the National Zoo. I was interested to discover that President Martin Van Buren was gifted 2 tigers by the Sultan of Oman and Muscat, and that those were gifted to the National Zoo, the predecessor to the current Smithsonian Zoo. So there's a long history for this. I think it's incredibly exciting. I think the location is perfect. That bison exhibit, or the previous bison exhibit, what's now going to be the leopard exhibit, you enter off Connecticut and it's right there. I think it has the potential to draw traffic away from the pandas. Which is, the pandas, it's always overcrowded there. And the pandas don't do much. I think the leopards are going to be great. And I love the design principles that we've seen so far. So I think I share the excitement of the rest of the commission. I'm really excited to see how this project develops, hopefully quickly in the next few months. And I'm excited to have y'all back again soon. Thanks as always to our commission staff for their careful review, and to everybody involved in this exciting project. I think it's going to be really incredible. With that, we have a motion on the floor. Madam Secretary, can you confirm the motion in second and proceed to a roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Dixon and seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Administrator Forrest?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We're now moving on to agenda item 7A, which is an informational presentation on the East Wing modernization project. A quick logistical item. My impression was that Commissioner Cash was going to be leaving us, and that Commissioner Mendelson was going to be taking his place virtually. Is he with us online right now?
Yes, he is.
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir. With that, do you want to proceed?
Presentation and overview of the proposed White House East Wing modernization project. Before I turn it over to the applicant team, I'm just going to provide you a brief background. The purpose of the project is to establish a permanent, secure event space within the White House grounds that provides increased capacity for official state functions. I think everybody is familiar with the location of the White House, but here on the screen is a map view showing President's Park and the surrounding context. The National Mall is located here at the bottom of the screen. Pennsylvania Avenue is located to the north of the White House, and East Street is located to the south, just north of the ellipse. The project is proposed to be located between the Executive Mansion and the Treasury Building. In addition to the executive residence, the vicinity of President's Park obviously also includes a number of significant buildings, including the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, which is to the west, shown on the image on the left, and the main Treasury Building, which is located to the east. Mixed-use development frames the entire area as it is located within the central core of Washington, D.C. The project is located on federal land within the District of Columbia. The National Capital Planning Act requires commission approval for all federal buildings and open space around such buildings within the district. As you know, NCPC has reviewed several other projects at the White House, most recently the White House fence in 2016 and 2017, and the tennis pavilion in 2019. In terms of the review of projects, NCPC uses guidance from the federal elements of the Comprehensive Plan for the National Capital, including policies related to urban design, parks, and open space, as well as visitor experience, among others. As you're aware, the Commission takes a holistic approach when applying the Comprehensive Plan policies in the context of each project's needs and objectives. One of the primary areas of interest for the review of this project is how the public will see and experience the modernization project from the surrounding public spaces, most notably from Pennsylvania Avenue to the north, as shown here on this image, or from East Street to the south, as shown here. These are really the only publicly accessible streets in the vicinity, as others are located within a secure perimeter. The public experience extends to several aspects of the proposed project, which will be helpful to understand as the design advances, including how the pedestrian level views from the north and the south may or may not change from current conditions, how the connector or colonnade between the Executive Mansion and the new East Wing modernization project will be designed, how the landscape will be designed, restored, or improved, and how perimeter security and the associated infrastructure might be beautified for the public and guests to the White House and grounds. As the design proceeds for review, NCPC staff will work with the applicant to understand these components as well as any other comments raised by the Commission today. And so with that, I am going to now turn it over to Josh Fisher with the White House, who will begin their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Josh. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Josh Fisher. I'm the Director of Management and Administration for the White House. We appreciate y'all allowing us the opportunity to discuss the East Wing Modernization Project and the reason we believe it to be so vitally important. Every day, people from across the country and around the globe visit the White House and surrounding grounds. They look to it as a representation of the values that we as Americans stand for. It is our responsibility to ensure that the guests, those given the opportunity to come inside the fence, and those viewing from Lafayette Park or the Ellipse experience the pride and the powerful symbol of American democracy, leadership, and history. While we are only discussing the ballroom today, our efforts extend beyond the 18 acres so that every school group, family trip, marriage proposal, or birthday photo allow people to enjoy the beautiful pride of our nation's capital in the White House complex. As you all know, U.S. presidents have been renovating, expanding, and modernizing the White House to meet the needs of the present day, including terraces built in the 1800s, the Truman Balcony in 1948, the original East Wing built in 1902 and rebuilt in 1942, as well as numerous other projects. When President Trump decided to build a grand ballroom and modernize other aspects of the East Wing, we began researching. After careful study and consultation with engineers, architects, historians, and other experts, we determined that modifying or renovating the colonnade in the existing East Wing was not feasible for many reasons. We found significant deficiencies and overall poor structural design and construction. The colonnade was structurally unstable, the roof systems had exceeded their service life, and the underpinnings were not sufficient to support the necessary upgrades. In the East Wing, there was chronic water intrusion, accelerated deterioration, and mold contamination. The electrical infrastructure was obsolete, deemed undersized, and non-compliant with current code. Facilities were also non-compliant with both ADA and Secret Service requirements. Because of this and other factors, the cost analysis proved that demolition and reconstruction provided the lowest total cost ownership and most effective long-term strategy. As part of this overall process, we also took great steps to ensure we preserved extraordinary historic features, including parts of the original colonnade, the Kennedy Gardens, and the movie theater, amongst other items. In choosing to carry out the East Wing modernization project, we are achieving life safety, ADA, environmental, and federal compliance. We are enhancing mission-critical functionality and eliminating systematic infrastructure failures. We are making necessary security enhancements and delivering resilient, adaptive infrastructure aligned with future mission needs. Importantly, the addition of the modernized facility also significantly reduces negative impacts on the truly historic Executive Mansion in South Lawn. The hosting of large events, the size of which were not contemplated when it was designed and reconstructed, drastically increases the rate of deterioration on the East Room and the state dining rooms, stressing the aging structural components of that specific building. In addition to consequential structural and safety considerations, the East Wing modernization project will significantly improve the experience of the American people and foreign dignitaries when they visit the White House. As I'm sure you're aware, historically, when visitors come to the White House for events, that tour begins passing through temporary double-wide trailers to gain entry onto complex. State dinners or events with world leaders would take place in a tent on the South Lawn. These tents affected more than just the world leaders. Their use destroyed large portions of the South Lawn, degrading its appearance for overall visitors and creating a recurring expense to replace and cultivate new grass. Beyond the ballroom, we have plans for beautifying the visitors' experience in the area, such as Lafayette Park, and creating a superior, more efficient visitor security screening center. In the coming weeks and months, both MPS and Secret Service will be submitting their plans on those two topics. Inside the White House, spaces such as the ballroom are just as important as the grounds outside. The ballroom is where the leaders will gather, important decisions will be discussed, and history will be made. It is a place that will bring people together for diplomacy, celebration, and unity. A beautiful, well-maintained, and historically designed ballroom will show respect for these moments and emphasize the significance of collaboration and tradition in our government. Now, I will turn it over to Shalom, the architect on this project, to discuss the ballroom. As you guys know, Shalom is no stranger to this commission. His work has been transformative across the D.C. region, so we're excited to see what he can bring to the table.
So, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to appear before the commission. Today, I'll provide a very high-level overview of the White House East Wing project. A more detailed and fully developed submission will be presented at one of your subsequent hearings. And I'd like to begin here with a brief discussion of the evolution of the current design approach. I joined the project team approximately 60 days ago in early November, following the schematic design work that had been undertaken by McCreary Architects. That earlier phase, which spanned most of 2025, involved a fairly comprehensive evaluation of programmatic needs and design alternatives, including multiple massing configurations, and of course, a whole series of elevational studies. Following the transition to my firm, we continue to evaluate various sizes and configurations for the project. Today, I'd like to report that the ultimate decision in late November was not to continue exploring options for increasing the size of the project. Instead, the decision was made to advance one of the earlier schemes that had been developed prior to our joining the team. That scheme is calibrated to respect key contextual relationships. The addition's cornice aligns and does not exceed with the cornice height of the White House. And the building mass is set back approximately 10.5 feet from the White House's primary north facade on Pennsylvania Avenue. These measures, I think, are essential to maintaining the visual primacy of the White House. The program includes a ballroom of approximately 22,000 square feet. It's designed to accommodate approximately 1,000 seated guests at a formal dinner. The total area of the two above-ground visible east wing floors, that's 2 floors, including the colonnade and the ballroom structure, is just slightly over 89,000 square feet. Below the ballroom and included in the 89,000 square feet, the project incorporates a series of functions which I'll show you on the boards shortly here. One could generously describe the current functioning of the White House support areas, such as loading, waste handling, general deliveries, food service, as being quite labyrinthian in character. And I think that's a kind description. These conditions reflect incremental adaptations over time, and they place ongoing operational stress on the historic structure. The proposed East Wing modernization seeks to rationalize these functions in a manner that will relieve the stress by increasing connectivity, operational efficiency, and by enhancing overall security. The changes will allow the White House to be experienced and to age, I think, in a much more graceful way over time. In advancing this proposal, we have aimed to land in a thoughtful middle ground by adapting, as I mentioned earlier, one of the earlier 2025 designs that meets the 1,000-seat requirement for the ballroom. And also, as I mentioned earlier, further consideration of enlarging the size was abandoned in late November. Our primary focus has been on refining the exterior facades through the reproportioning of windows, masonry detailing, revisiting the exterior terraces, and further developing the interior spaces, of course. This scheme does require a 2-story colonnade connecting the east room in the White House to the new ballroom. We believe it's appropriate to evaluate this condition within the context of the broader White House campus. The White House is therefore considering the idea of a modest 1-story addition to the West Wing colonnade, which would serve to restore a sense of symmetry around the original central pavilion. It will be considered as part of a future overall planning framework, which will be presented at a future hearing here. So with this context, I'll now just walk you through briefly some of the boards that we have here. So here we have, of course, Pennsylvania Avenue to the top of the board. With Pennsylvania Avenue here, it's on the upper part of the board. There's the whole White House complex, and of course the East Wing colonnade with the ballroom addition. There'll be 2 primary access points to the ballroom. And we are talking about a large crowd here of 1,000 people. One of them will be through the White House, through the colonnade, to a foyer that will serve the ballroom. And then the other one will be 1 level down. The grade drops as we come around this way. And there will be an entrance through a portico here into a foyer with a grand stair that will take you up 1 level to the ballroom and essentially meet where the other guests will be coming from the other direction. The new structure here has a series of terraces on 3 sides of the building. On the south side of the colonnade, we have a terrace that's about 12 feet wide with a stair that leads down to the lawn panels. And then that terrace continues around to the west side of the ballroom along here. And actually, that's a very important life safety egress point for the whole project. And that leads down to a stair here, which also lands at the lower level grade. Halfway down the stair, you could make a left and access a terrace, which is underneath this colonnade roof, and that also has a stair leading down to the lawn. We will show you much more detailed drawings next time with view sheds. But for today, I would just like to point out that there's a very dense cluster of trees here, which will remain, which really affects your view from the south, the public view from the south looking at this, just as there is a dense cluster of trees that protects the view of the west wing. And we also have the same condition on the north side, where we have a dense cluster of both evergreen and deciduous trees, which will really frame the view of the central pavilion of the White House. These are very schematic drawings of the two primary levels. On your right here is the ballroom level, which is the upper level, and on the left is the level below the ballroom. So, well, let's start at the upper level here. So if you were entering the ballroom from the White House, the east room is right here. You'll come across the colonnade, adjacent to this terrace here, enter this foyer area, and then make your way into the ballroom, which has windows on three sides, facing east, west, and south. If you're entering from the other side, and many of the guests will be entering from the other side, you will come up a few stairs here through a portico, and that would give you access. You'd be coming up here, actually, in the lower level. That would give you access to this hall here, the foyer, and then up a grand stair, which would land you right in the same area here, and again, giving you access to the ballroom. On the lower level, the other uses that we have are this large space, which is devoted to food service. That's basically a commercial kitchen. And it will not only service the ballroom, but also service events inside the White House itself. Opposite that, we have an office suite for the First Lady. And then on the lower level of the colonnade itself, we are rebuilding the movie theater that had been there. These are north and south elevations of the White House complex. We've removed all the trees, no landscaping at all is shown. Just wanted you to see the buildings very clearly. And I think, the most important thing here perhaps is what I mentioned earlier, which is the alignment of the cornice of the ballroom directly aligns with the cornice and the balustrade of the White House. The heights will match exactly. Here you see the upper level of the East Colonnade, and I did mention the potential for a future addition, a one-story addition to the West Wing, and that would occur right here. And you can see that the reason to think about that is so that we would reinstate the symmetry around the central pavilion of the White House. We have not looked at that at all yet, but hope to do so in the future. So here's the view from the south. Again, you have the rear elevation of the White House itself. We have the ballroom with the portico, the terrace at the half level, and then of course here the West Wing, two-part with the colonnade. These are larger elevations, just so you can start to understand the character of the building. So what we have at the top here is the east elevation of the ballroom, which is directly across from the Treasury. This portico sits pretty much directly across from the portico that does serve the Treasury. The floor of the ballroom is at this upper level right through here, and the 8 windows that you see here are basically centered on the ballroom. On the opposite side, we have the same condition with the 8 windows there centered on the ballroom. This is the west elevation, and on the lower level here, you're seeing windows that face into, they serve the First Lady's office suite. We intend to develop all of this with a combination of stone and precast. It will all be painted white to match the White House. Very similar finish as you see on the White House. And of course, the windows and all of the masonry details are things we are working on right now. And then finally, I just have one more board. And this is just the north elevation, which you saw a minute ago. But here we've added in the street trees, which are shown in the darker green. And then we've put in transparent outlines of the larger trees, which are behind the street trees inside the fence line. So the trees actually pretty much match the height of the proposed ballroom. So you'll start to get a sense when I show you at your next hearing some photographs, the extent to which these will frame the view of the central pavilion. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to open up to questions if you'd like.
Thank you very much for that presentation and for showing us these diagrams and elevations. I'll open it up to the commission now for any questions for the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have some questions. This is Commissioner Mendelson.
Please proceed, Commissioner.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. I do want to just first take a moment to thank my designee, Evan Cash, who comes to all the meetings, and I just want to thank him publicly, and I also want to thank those who gave the presentation. I do have a number of questions. The first is, how is this proposal consistent with the comprehensive plan's urban design requirements, which include, I think it's B1.4 in the urban design element, visually reinforce the preeminence of the Capitol building, White House, and other nationally significant resources by protecting the visual frame around them, and B5.10, visually reinforce the special importance of the White House and its grounds by protecting the existing spatial relationship of the White House and the mass and scale of adjacent buildings. So my question pertains to how this proposal is consistent with those elements of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for those questions, Mr. Mendelson. We are being very, very careful, first of all, to maintain, I think, a fairly sufficient distance from the central pavilion of the White House. And be developed in a matching way on both sides of the central pavilion of the White House. I think we will actually be in concurrence with the paragraph that you just cited.
All right, that probably will come up again at future presentations. Can the size, footprint, or location of the ballroom on the site be changed at this point?
I mean, certainly anything is possible. It all depends on schedule and money. But this particular location has been studied pretty carefully by the previous architect as well as myself. And it's been determined that this is the best location in terms of getting access to it from the east room of the White House.
But part of my question was the size or footprint. So has construction work on the ballroom foundation already begun?
There's been excavation work, there's some foundation work, but that's really not the limiting issue in terms of whether things can be changed or not.
Okay. So if as this gets further refined, the footprint could conceivably be reduced a little bit. The work on the foundation so far is not that significant?
Well, as I said, the footprint has been studied fairly extensively already. And many different massing options were studied before we even came on board. So at this point, we've continued working with that, with the product of all those studies, and we are primarily refining the scheme.
So I appreciate that the cornice line will not be higher than with the historic structure, but is it possible that the height of the ballroom, which of course determines the cornice line, that could be reduced somewhat? Because it still seems to me that it's overwhelming the existing building.
It's interesting. I mean, it is the same height. I think you're familiar with the addition that we built to the Wilson building that you're in.
Yes.
So, I mean, I bring it up because this question of size and relationship of an addition to an historic building comes up with almost every project I've ever worked on over the last 40 years. And we're essentially doing the same thing here we did at the Wilson Building. We're building an addition, although at the Wilson Building it really contrasts. It's a very modern addition. It contrasts very strongly to the neoclassical building. But even there, we matched the height. We did match the height of the existing building. And I think it works quite well, and we've done that on many, many other structures. We're just finishing up an addition to the Cannon Building where we increased the height by 1 story. That was reviewed pretty extensively. And you could look at it. I mean, I think that too works really well, with the original historic structure, despite the additional height.
But my sense of it is that there are 2 levels here. One is, I'm going to say, the lower level, and then there's the ballroom level. And I can't remember what the height is. What is the height for the ballroom level?
Well, if you measure it off the front driveway, where the portico is of the White House, we're approximately 51 feet above that elevation. But then
And that's roughly the level of the ballroom?
I'm sorry, that's the roof of the ballroom. That's the height. That's the height of the balustrade around our ballroom structure. I'm sorry, is that what you were asking?
No, I think I'm not asking it well. The ballroom is going to be like a 20-foot ceiling, a 40-foot ceiling?
It's about 38 to 40, yes.
And could that be reduced?
It's possible, not impossible.
I had one other question, which I think is probably for Mr. Fisher, not you, and that is, why didn't the project come to us as a whole instead of after the demolition?
Thank you for that question. We've begun work on this project. There are 2 phases to this project. I think that you've alluded to it with Shalom here. There are some things regarding this project that are, frankly, of top secret nature that we are currently working on. That does not preclude us from changing the above-grade structure. But that work needed to be considered when doing this project, which was not part of the NCPC process.
And let me note, just for the record, if it's okay with you, Commissioner, it's long been the view of NCPC's counsel's office that the National Capital Planning Act does not give us authority to review demolition or site preparation work. So while many projects do come before us at that stage, that's not a requirement of the National Capital Planning Act, and review of demolition is not something that we have the authority to do as a commission.
I appreciate that, and I've actually read that legal opinion, and I'm not arguing with it. It's just that I don't know the last time that a project has been presented before NCPC or Zoning Commission or any of the planning agencies where it wasn't presented as a whole. This is what we're going to do, and we will proceed with the demolition as we move forward, as opposed to here where the demolition occurred first.
Well,
I don't have any other...
the Air and Space Museum addition is one example of that, where they proceeded with demolition of the old addition, I believe, prior to presenting plans for the new addition to this commission. I think that's the nearest historical analogy. I could be wrong.
I just want to conclude by, I have a lot of respect for Shalom Baranas. He's done a lot of great projects in the city over the decades, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do any other commissioners have questions for the presentation to you?
I have 2 questions.
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
One, you kept mentioning stairways. I guess that's going to be accessible. Handicap accessible also, I'm assuming. You mentioned stairways on the building.
Yeah, the primary handicap access into the ballroom will be through the front door of the White House.
So the other entrances will not accommodate.
The other stairways are there for egress purposes, for fire code purposes, and they are stairways, so a wheelchair would have to really go in the other direction.
But I think that may be a concern, I would think. I mean, we want handicapped people to be able to egress too.
Oh, absolutely. No, believe me, we are looking very closely at all of that, all of the code.
Secondly, there hasn't been any discussion of the new security process that we used to go through, or we have gone through with the labyrinth of different corridors to get cleared to get into the White House. How is that going to be addressed in this process?
I'll really let you in any time, but
I've been back for a while.
Thank you for the question, sir. We are currently looking at a new visitors entry facility that would be part of this project. Again, as we look at this, it's not just the East Wing modernization. It's not the ballroom. We are looking at a totality experience for the White House complex. As I mentioned earlier, historically, when you come to the White House, you go through double wide trailers, tents, out in the cold. We don't think that that's befitting of what the White House should be or could be, quite frankly. So those plans are under review. We're trying to put them together, make sure that we've got our I's dotted and our T's crossed before we bring them before this commission so that you guys can hopefully see and enjoy what we've produced.
I think that it's a sensitive area to even make it public how this process may work. But one of the detractors from the historical structures was the complicated clearance process and the hodgepodge, if you will. So I'm assuming you will present to us how that will be handled in the future.
Yes, sir.
So we can look. And I do hope we do something with the handicapped issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have questions for the project team? Yes, Commissioner.
Clarification from something that was presented. There was talk of adding potentially an additional level on the west wing side of the building. Is that to the west wing structure itself, or just to the on top of the walkway over?
It would be just to the colonnade.
Any other questions before we proceed to deliberations? Hearing none, I'd like to thank, as always, our staff and the presentation team here. Vice Chairman Levenbach, would you like to kick things off?
I think what strikes me about it is and some people here, some of the commissioners have participated in White House events more than I have, but I'm struck at how much this expands the utility of the compound. I think about the Hanukkah party I just went to. You start at the north end of Lafayette Park, then you walk through one set of trailers, and you walk through another set of trailers, and there's a code check, and then when you get inside, it's pretty crowded, and there aren't that many people there, and this is going to just open up access to people at a much higher level, and I think that it's going to be enjoyed for generations to come. So I'm really excited to see how this project develops.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. Commissioner Blair.
I would just say I think that it looks like it's going to be very beautiful, but the utility, I think for those of us that spend a lot of time there, is fairly obvious. I think Winston Churchill said to the House of Commons when they were going to rebuild it that we shape our buildings and then they shape us thereafter. The White House is a special place, but people come there to gather and to work. I would tell you that we've seen times where simply doing something like getting the Congress together to have a meal and break bread is not something that the current structure of the White House really accommodates in any way with the President of the United States. That's a problem. When foreign dignitaries visit, the President of the United States of any party is invited all over the world and goes and gets to see the best of whatever the country has to offer. And I think the President's view would be that he thinks the American people deserve that same opportunity to have grand gatherings for visitors to our country and show them what America has to offer. So I think it has obvious utility. I think it's very considered in its design, and I look forward to seeing the progress of the project and appreciate your presentation and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Administrator Forrest.
Thanks very much, Chairman. James read from my notes, so I'm right with him on everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Forrest. Commissioner Dixon.
I appreciate the presentation and look forward as this moves forward to more deliberation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mendelson.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was muted. I am. Let me say that I think that the elevation we saw from Pennsylvania Avenue was not as disturbing to me as the elevation from the Ellipse. And as I said in my questions, I'm concerned about this addition overwhelming the original historic building. I appreciate that the architectural apparatus has really good taste with regard to dealing with historic structures, but I do think that it sounds to me like the height could be lowered without jeopardizing the footprint. I don't think that the footprint, that is 89,000 square feet, should be the goal in and of itself. So maybe it can be and needs to be shrunk a little bit more. Again, looking at the elevations from the south, it's just so imbalanced. The other observation I have is that it is disturbing to me that we are looking at an addition to this historic structure, but we're looking at what appears to be an overall plan in a very segmented approach. So there are going to be some changes with the visitor center, there are going to be some changes with Lafayette Park, there are going to be some changes with the West Wing, but rather than looking at this as a whole, we're going to be looking at it piecemeal, and that's concerning as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson?
I would just suggest for those of us who don't work in that complex every day that it would probably be worthwhile and beneficial for our consideration to take some opportunities to go and see the site and see the facilities as they are between now and future considerations.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McGowan?
I don't have any additional comments or questions, but thank you all so much for the presentation. It was very informative.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes, thanks for the staff for their work on this and for the presentation, and I look forward to when it comes before the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schaefer?
So again, my thank you as well. This is it's exciting. Great job overall with the architectural features, and in looking forward to see how this progresses. As I echo the same comments as come before me as well, because I think this is a great opportunity for us to continue to expand upon the importance of our entire nation. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stidham?
Thank you, and thank you for the overview. It is really helpful to get a sense. And I should lead with that Secretary Burgum, who's I sit as a delegated position here, and the Department of the Interior supports the East Wing modernization without reservation. We appreciate the designs that were shown here today, and we look forward to seeing more detail, especially when it comes to the landscaping and understanding how the temporary facilities will be, how the uses that currently happen in those temporary facilities are taking shape in the new facility, to really understand how that replacement is taking place, as well as understanding clearly, it's important, those views, that anyone who's coming to visit who does not have the opportunity to be inside the fence, to be able to understand and to view the White House. And so understanding those views will be really helpful when you come back, as well as the design choices you make and the materiality. So we look forward to much more detail and appreciate the overview.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo?
Myself with my next door neighbor's comments, and seeing how this progresses. I have some concern about size and scale, and in a number of ways, but we can talk more about that as I said, as the design and the work on this progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, just a few things that I'd say. First of all, Commissioner, if you want to come over for lunch, you're welcome anytime. Happy to show you around. More seriously, though, I think every project that comes before this commission is ultimately determined in large part, or is shaped in large part by its function. And I think it's worth emphasizing a point that Commissioner Blair made, which is the vital nature of the function that I believe this project is intended to advance. It's been a distinct honor for me to get to, frankly, travel around the world with the President and visit foreign countries and be hosted by the leaders of foreign countries. And I think it's notable that when the President of the United States of America flies to the United Kingdom, he's hosted at Windsor Castle. And when next year the King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland comes to the United States, more likely than not, he will be hosted in a tent on the South Lawn with porta potties. That, to me, is not a good look for the United States of America. And I think that when you think about the long history of planning for a state ballroom on White House grounds, if you think about the number of times this project has been suggested historically, it speaks to that programmatic need. This isn't a new idea. I've been interested to see that even in the press reports that have been, or the press articles that have been very, I'd say, agitated about the way that this project has progressed, there has been a recognition by previous occupants of the White House from both parties, people who have worked in the White House from both parties, that there is a real programmatic need for a building like this. So I think what we're really talking about then is a lot of the issues that Shalom in particular was addressing in his presentation, which is given the programmatic need, given the size that programmatic need necessarily requires for this project, how do we ensure that this project accords with what we as a commission care about? How do we ensure that the view sheds, that the way that the public will experience this building, won't detract from the way that the public experiences what I believe is one of the really 2 or 3 most important buildings in Washington, D.C. and in the region that we have jurisdiction over, which is the White House. I'd be interested to see more detailed elevations, particularly from the south, in light of Commissioner Mendelson's comments, what this would look like with the tree line, because I think that the elevation that we see there, just based on my knowledge of what the property looks like, that's very stark, and I don't think really represents how the public would experience this building. I think it's important that this is framed between the White House and the Treasury building, which is a building of significant massing. And I'd be interested to see an elevation that extends essentially further to the left or further to the east to encompass sort of the full viewing experience from Pennsylvania Avenue. And as many commissioners have said, I just look forward to seeing more details in the weeks and months ahead. And I'd like to thank, as always, our staff for the collaboration, the work they've already put in on this issue. I think they can be a real resource to the project team, particularly as you start thinking about the visitor experience, visitor entrance, other aspects of the broader modernization of the White House complex, and particularly how the public interacts with it. But again, just speaking personally, I'm really excited to see how this project develops. And I'm excited to hopefully see more detailed planning materials in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you. Are there any other commissioners that have questions or comments before we adjourn for the day? Well, in that case, unless there's anything else for us to address today, if there's no other business, that concludes the open session agenda for this meeting of the National Capital Planning Commission. Our next regular commission meeting will be on Thursday, February 5th at 1 p.m. I believe the commissioners are now going to exit the chambers. If you could please hold your seats while they do so, that would be a great help. And thank you all for being here today.